Clash of the Titans, the irresistible force versus the immovable object. The ultimate showdown. We love these questions, don't we? They spark our imagination and pit the greatest champions from different worlds against each other. But what if we stage the most impossible confrontation of all time? A battle that rips a hole in the fabric of history. A fight between two legends separated by 65 million years of impossible time. In one corner, the greatest hunter of the Stone Age, a master of survival, forged in the brutal ice of the Pleistocene. A human of immense power, intelligence, and courage, who faced down charging woolly mammoths for breakfast, the Neanderthal. And in the other corner, the undisputed king of the predators, the Tyrant Lizard, the most terrifying killing machine that has ever walked the earth. A 7-ton grim reaper with a mouthful of railway spikes, a creature whose very name means fear, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's a cosmic mistake, a paradox made real. What would happen if a clan of Neanderthals, on a routine hunt in their Ice Age forest, suddenly found themselves staring up at a monster from a lost world? What would they do? Who survives this impossible encounter? To answer that, we first have to give our human champion the respect he deserves. We need to understand exactly who and what is stepping into this hypothetical arena. So, let's clear our minds of the old cartoon image. The Neanderthal was not a dim-witted, stooped brute. This was a highly successful and intelligent species of human that dominated a continent for over 300,000 years. They were, in many ways, the perfect cold-weather predator. Shorter than us, but with a bone structure that was significantly more robust. Their barrel chests housed massive lungs, and their bodies were packed with dense muscle. A Neanderthal was a biological tank, built for power and resilience. And their minds were just as formidable. Their brains were, on average, slightly larger than our own modern brains. They were expert toolmakers, strategic thinkers, and, most importantly, they were proven giant killers. A Neanderthal's daily life was a confrontation with megafauna that would send a modern human running for their life. Imagine standing on a frozen steppe. The ground begins to tremble. It's a woolly mammoth, a 10-ton mountain of muscle and shaggy fur, armed with curving, 12-foot tusks. To us, it's a monster. To a Neanderthal clan, it's dinner. They wouldn't face it head. That would be suicide. They would use their greatest weapon, their minds, working in concert. They would watch the herd, identify a young or isolated individual, and then set their plan in motion. Using their intimate knowledge of the terrain, they would drive the beast towards a natural trap, a ravine, a bog, or a narrow pass. The clan would work as a single, coordinated unit. Some would use fire and noise to create chaos and steer the panicked animal, while the bravest hunters, the pointmen, would move in for the kill. Their weapon of choice was a heavy, fire-hardened wooden spear, sometimes tipped with a lethally sharp point of flint, crafted using the sophisticated Livawa technique. But this was not a throwing spear. This was a thrusting lance. To use it, you had to get close. Terrifyingly close. You had to have the courage to run alongside a thrashing, trumpeting behemoth and drive your spear deep into its vital organs. It was brutal, intimate, and unbelievably dangerous. Their skeletons tell the story, riddled with healed fractures and traumatic injuries from hunts gone wrong. They lived a life of constant, violent confrontation, and they didn't just survive it, they mastered it. They took on giant cave bears for their homes and fought off giant lions for their kills. Courage was not an abstract concept for them. It was a daily necessity. So, this is our champion. A clan of, say, a dozen individuals. A mix of seasoned male and female hunters, all powerfully built, all armed with heavy spears. They are intelligent. They work as a flawless team, and they have absolutely no fear of taking on an animal, many times their size. They are, without a doubt, the toughest, most formidable hunters the human lineage has ever produced. Now, let's set the scene. The hunt for a giant deer was successful. The clan is gathered in a clearing in their familiar pine and birch forest, beginning the hard work of butchering their kill. The air is cold and smells of pine needles and fresh blood. It's a good day. They have food, and they're safe. And then, it happens. A strange stillness falls over the forest. The birds, which had been chirping moments before, go utterly silent. A deep, rhythmic thump, thump begins to echo through the trees. It's a sound unlike any they've ever heard. It's not the heavy tread of a mammoth or the roar of a bear. This is something else. The ground begins to vibrate with each impact. The Neanderthals stop their work, grabbing their spears, their eyes scanning the dense tree line, their bodies tensing for a threat they cannot yet comprehend. A shadow falls over the clearing, impossibly large. A colossal head, bigger than a man, rises above the tree. It's covered not in fur, but in a strange, leathery, patterned skin. Its eye, a dark, yellow orb the size of a grapefruit, swivels and fixes on them. It blinks slowly. This isn't a mammal. It isn't a bird. It is something alien, a monster torn from a nightmare. The head lowers, and the creature steps fully into the clearing, snapping ancient trees like twigs. The Tyrant King has arrived. For a Neanderthal, fear is a familiar companion. It's the adrenaline that sharpens the senses before a charge. But this is different. This is not fear. This is a complete shattering of reality. Every instinct, every piece of ancestral knowledge passed down through 1,000 generations is screaming that this thing should not exist. It is a creature outside of all context. Its sheer scale is an insult to the laws of their world. At 40 feet long and nearly 20 feet tall, the Tyrannosaurus Rex is more than a predator. It's a walking geological event. Let's break down the monster they are facing. Its legs are like tree trunks, thick with muscle, designed to carry its 7-ton body across the Cretaceous landscape. Every step it takes is a minor earthquake. Its head is a 4-foot-long weapon of mass destruction. Its skull is not a fragile thing. It's a solid, fused block of bone, built to withstand incredible impact forces. And then there are the teeth, 60 of them, thick as bananas, serrated like steak knives. These are not for slicing, they are for crushing. A T-Rex's bite force is the strongest of any land animal that has ever lived, estimated at over 12,000 pounds per square inch. It doesn't bite off a chunk of flesh. It pulverizes bone and tissue into a pulp. But perhaps the most terrifying weapon is its senses. The T-Rex's reputation as a clumsy oaf with poor vision, made famous by movies, is completely wrong. Modern analysis of its skull tells a different story. Its eye sockets are positioned for excellent binocular vision, giving a depth perception far superior to most other dinosaurs and on par with a modern hawk. It could see its prey in sharp, three-dimensional detail, and its sense of smell was legendary. The olfactory bulbs in its brain were enormous, suggesting it could smell a carcassor, a clan of bloody hunters butchering a deer from miles away. It hasn't just stumbled upon them, it has been drawn here. It has been hunting them. The initial shock for the Neanderthal clan would be overwhelming. Their first instinct might be pure, unadulterated panic. Some of the younger, less experienced members might break and run, and that would be a fatal mistake. A T-Rex, despite its size, was not slow. Estimates suggest it could run at speeds of 15 to 25 miles per hour, more than fast enough to run down a fleeing human, even a powerfully built one. The first casualties would be swift and horrific. A single bone-shattering snap of those jaws, and a Neanderthal would simply cease to exist. But the seasoned hunters, the clan leaders, would likely hold their ground, their minds racing, trying to process the impossible. They are strategists. Their entire lives have been about analyzing threats and finding weaknesses. So, what would they see? They would see a creature of immense power, but also one with potential flaws. They would see its massive, vulnerable-looking legs. They would see its belly, softer and less protected than its armored back. They would see its surprisingly small arms, useless in a close-quarters fight. And they would see its eyes, the classic target for any hunter facing a large predator. The leader of the clan would bark a command, a guttural cry that cuts through the terror. It's the stand and fight call. It's the command that says, panic is death. Together, we have a chance. Their training, their discipline, their entire social structure is built for this moment. They would instinctively fall into a formation, likely a their heavy spears pointing outwards, creating a porcupine's defense of sharpened flint. They are no longer just a group of terrified individuals. They are a single, bristling war machine. The T-Rex, for its part, would be equally confused. It has hunted Triceratops, an Ankylosaurus armored, dangerous prey. But it has never seen anything like this. These small, soft-skinned creatures are not running. They are standing their ground, holding sharp sticks, and making noise. It's a bizarre, unexpected behavior. The T-Rex might pause, its massive head cocked, its brain trying to calculate the risk versus the reward. This momentary hesitation is the Neanderthal's only hope. It's the window they need to turn from prey into hunters. The plan would form in an instant, communicated through shouts and hand signals refined over 1,000 mammoth hunts. It's a classic pincer movement, a strategy as old as cooperative hunting itself. The core group will hold the center, a wall of spears meant to distract and fix the monster's attention. This is the suicide squad, the bravest of the brave. Their job is to keep that terrifying head, with its bone-crushing jaws, focused squarely on them. Meanwhile, two smaller, faster teams would break off, circling to the sides. Their targets are the legs. It is a strategy they might have used against a giant sloth or a woolly rhino. Immobilize the beast. They would dart in, low and fast, trying to get past the swinging head. Their heavy spears are not meant for throwing. They would have to get close enough to drive them deep into the massive thigh muscles, the size of a modern cow. A single spear won't do it, but 5, 10, 15 spears, driven into the same leg, could potentially sever major muscles and tendons. If they can cripple one of those legs, the monster will come crashing down. If they can bring the king to his knees, they have a chance of winning this impossible war. The attack begins. The central group bellows, banging their spears on the ground, taunting the titan, while the flanking teams begin their desperate, darting assault. The central group's task is unimaginably terrifying. They are the anvil upon which the hammers of the flanking teams will strike. They stand less than 50 feet from a thrashing head that could swallow a man whole. The T-Rex, infuriated by these noisy, defiant little creatures, lunges forward. It doesn't use its jaws at first. Instead, it uses its immense weight and momentum. It lowers its head and swings it like a wrecking ball, a tactic used to shatter the frills of a triceratops. The Neanderthals see it coming. They dive, scattering like ninepins. One is too slow. The impact of the massive skull doesn't just kill him, it vaporizes him, sending his body cartwheeling through the air in a spray of red. The sheer, concussive force of the near miss throws the others to the ground. Their ears are ringing, their heads spinning. The stench of the creature a foul mix of rotting meat, swampy water, and something ancient and reptiline is overwhelming. But this is the opening the flanking teams needed. As the T-Rex is momentarily committed to its forward lunge, its massive legs are exposed. The first flanking team, a trio of the clan's fastest hunters, surges in from the right. They move with a desperate, fluid grace. They know they have only seconds. The leader, a scarred veteran of 100 hunts, targets the massive quadriceps muscle of the dinosaur's right leg. He doesn't throw his spear. He runs directly at the leg, a solid wall of muscle and scaly hide, and at the last possible second, he plants his feet and drives his spear forward with the combined force of his legs, back, and shoulders. The flint tip, honed to a razor's edge, bites deep. It punches through the thick, leathery skin and sinks several inches into the muscle. The hunter feels a sickening, jarring impact run up the spear shaft and through his entire body. He immediately lets go and scrambles back, his comrades providing covering jabs to distract the beast. It's a solid hit. A cheer goes up from the clan. They have drawn first blood, but their celebration is cut short. The T-Rex reacts, not with a roar of pain, but with pure, explosive fury. It pivots on its uninjured leg with shocking speed. Its massive tail, a 40-foot-long counterbalance of solid muscle and bone, sweeping across the clearing at chest height. This is a weapon the Neanderthals have no concept of. They are used to tusks, claws, and horns, dangers that are all at the front. The tail whip is a blindside attack of devastating power. The hunter who made the successful strike has no time to react. The tail catches him square in the chest. There is a horrific crunch of breaking ribs and spine. He is thrown like a rag doll, landing in a crumpled heap at the edge of the forest, his life extinguished instantly. The other two hunters in his team are knocked off their feet, their spears sent flying. The attack on the right flank has been brutally, decisively crushed. Now, all eyes turn to the left flank. Two hunters remain, a young but powerful male and a veteran female, the clan's matriarch. They have seen what happened. They know the incredible danger of the tail. They understand that their original plan of a sustained attack is suicide. They have only one chance to make a difference. They must make their attack count. They change tactics. Instead of a direct assault on the thick thigh muscle, they aim lower, for a more vulnerable target, the ankle and foot. If they can sever the Achilles tendon or shatter the metatarsal bones, the effect will be the same as crippling the thigh, but it's a target the TRX cannot easily defend with its head or tail. It's an incredibly difficult and dangerous maneuver. The matriarch takes the lead. She uses a feint, darting forward as if to attack, forcing the T-Rex to shift its weight in her direction. As the monster's attention is fixed on her, the young male sprints in from the side, staying incredibly low to the ground. He slides the last few feet on the muddy, blood-slicked earth, coming to a stop directly beside the T-Rex's massive, three-toed foot. Each toe is tipped with a claw the size of a bowie knife. Looking up, it's like being at the base of a living skyscraper. He has a fraction of a second. He doesn't try to stab. He uses his spear like a leaf. He shoves the sharpened flint tip deep into the joint where the massive ankle connects to the foot bones. Then, with a desperate roar, he puts all of his weight onto the spear shaft, trying to pry the joint apart, to snap the ligaments. For a moment, there is a terrible, grinding resistance. Then, with a wet, tearing sound, something gives. The T-Rex lets out a high-pitched shriek of genuine, agonizing pain. It stumbles, its right ankle failing to support its immense weight. The 7-ton predator lurches sideways, its balance compromised. It's not falling, but it's critically injured. The young hunter, his mission accomplished, rolls away, narrowly avoiding being crushed as the giant foot stomps down in agony. The tide of the battle has turned. The monster is wounded. Its mobility is hampered. The remaining members of the central group, seeing their chance, surge forward. They are no longer just trying to distract. They are on the attack. They begin to pepper the beast's underbelly and lower chest with spear thrusts. These are shallow wounds, pinpricks to a creature of this size, but they add to the pain, the confusion, and the blood loss. The king of the Tyrant Lizards is, for the first time, on the defensive. It's cornered, wounded, and surrounded by a swarm of relentlessly courageous, intelligent apes. The impossible is beginning to seem possible. This is the turning point, the moment in any hunt against a giant where the prey becomes the predator. The Neanderthals have weathered the initial shock, survived the brutal counterattacks, and successfully wounded their impossible foe. The fear is still there, a cold knot in their stomachs, but it's now overshadowed by a powerful, primal instinct. The will to finish the fight. The T-Rex's lumbering, limping movements show that the attack on its ankle was a catastrophic success. It can no longer pivot or charge effectively. Its greatest weapons, its speed and momentum, have been stolen from it. But the fight is far from over. A cornered, wounded predator is often the most dangerous. The T-Rex, unable to maneuver properly, resorts to a desperate last-ditch defense. It stands its ground, using its head and jaws as a lethal turret. Its neck muscles, powerful enough to rip a 10-ton triceratops apart, allow it to swing its head with terrifying speed, snapping at anything that comes within its deadly radius. The Neanderthals are forced to backpedal, keeping a respectful distance from the snapping jaws. A stalemate ensues. The humans can't get close enough to deliver a killing blow, and the dinosaur can't reach them to land a final, devastating bite. This is where the true intelligence of the Neanderthals comes to the forefront again. They are not just brawlers, they are problems. The clan leader, the old matriarch who directed the ankle attack, sees the situation clearly. They cannot win a close-quarters fight against that head. They need a new weapon, a new strategy. Her eyes scan the clearing, the familiar forest that is their home and their arsenal. She sees the successful deer kill, lying half-butchered nearby. She sees the fire pit, its embers still glowing faintly from their morning meal. And an idea sparks, an idea born of 1,000,000 years of human evolution. Two of the younger, faster Neanderthals understand immediately. They sprint to the fire pit, grabbing long, unburnt branches from the woodpile. They plunge the ends into the glowing embers, blowing furiously to coax them into flame. Within moments, they have created a pair of primitive, smoking torches. It's a technology the T-Rex has never seen, a power it cannot comprehend. As the torchbearers advance, the T-Rex's fury gives way to a new emotion, uncertainty. It has no instinctive fear of fire, but it is wary of the strange, dancing light, the acrid smoke that stings its sensitive nostrils, and the unfamiliar crackling sound. It represents a new, unknown threat. The matriarch directs the attack. The two torchbearers will approach from the sides, using the fire not as a weapon to burn, but as a tool to blind and disorient. Their job is to force the T-Rex's head to turn, to expose its flank and, most critically, its neck. The neck, is the prize. It's a thick column of muscle, but it contains the vital arteries and the spinal column. A deep, well-placed strike here could end the fight for good. The plan is put into motion. The torchbearers advance cautiously, waving the flaming branches. The T-Rex tracks them, its massive head swiveling, its reptilian brain confused by the spectacle. It lets out a low, guttural hiss, a sound of warning and anxiety, as its head turns to snap at the torch on its right. The left side of its neck is left completely exposed for a precious second. This is the moment the matriarch has been waiting for. She holds not just a spear, but the largest, sharpest flint knife from the butchering sit, a heavy leaf-shaped blade, designed for cleaving through thick hide and muscle. She has been waiting, holding her position, the deadliest hunter in the clan, reserving her strength for the one perfect opportunity. She explodes into motion. She doesn't run at the neck, she runs towards the creature's massive chest, a place the snapping jaws cannot easily reach. Using the beast's own wounded leg as a ramp, she scrambles up its thigh, her powerful arms and legs finding purchase on the rough, scaly hide. It's an act of breathtaking, insane courage. For a moment, she is riding the monster, clinging to its side like an ant on an elephant. She climbs, pulling herself up towards the base of the neck. The T-Rex, feeling her weight, begins to thrash wildly, trying to shake her off. She holds on, her muscles straining. She has one shot. Reaching the junction where the muscular neck meets the powerful shoulder, she raises the heavy flint blade. With a final, desperate roar, she drives it down with all her might, aiming for the soft spot just behind the jaw hinge. The blade sinks deep, slicing through scales, skin, and a thick layer of muscle. It severs the carotid artery. A thick, hot torrent of dark blood erupts from the wound, drenching her. The T-Rex lets out one last, horrifying shriek, a sound that is not of anger, but of mortal agony. It staggers, its one good leg buckling under the strain and the shock. Its massive head droops. Its movements become sluggish. The light begins to fade from its grapefruit-sized eye. With a final, shuddering groan, the great tyrant king crashes to the forest floor, its fall shaking the very earth. Silence descends upon the clearing, broken only by the ragged, gasping breaths of the surviving Neanderthals. The matriarch, bruised and blood-soaked, slides from the corpse of the fallen god. She stands, along with the handful of survivors, looking at the impossible mountain of flesh they have brought down. They have won. They have faced a monster from another world, a creature of nightmare, and through courage, intelligence, and teamwork, they have emerged victorious. The war is over. The Titan is dead. But victory in a battle this costly feels very different from triumph. The survivors, no more than half the original clan, slowly begin to take stock of their new reality. The forest clearing, once a familiar and safe walkspace, is now a scene of utter devastation. The ground is a ruin of churned mud, splintered trees, and the mingled blood of their kin and their impossible foe. They look at the fallen members of their family, the one vaporized by the initial charge, the one shattered by the tail whip. There is no victory roar, no celebration. There is only the quiet, grim task of mourning the dead. The matriarch, the hero of the final, desperate charge, walks over to the body of the young hunter who crippled the beast's ankle. She kneels, placing a hand on his cold shoulder in a gesture of silent respect. He died so that the clan might live. In their world, there is no higher honor. The cost of survival has been immense, a price paid in the blood of their bravest. But even in their grief, the Neanderthals are, above all, pragmatists. They are creatures of survival. And as the initial shock wears off, they begin to look at the fallen T-Rex, not just as a vanquished foe, but through the lens of a hunter. They see it for what it now is, an unimaginably unprecedented bounty. One of the hunters approaches the massive carcass cautiously. He touches its strange, scaly hide. It's thick, tougher than any mammoth or rhino hide they've ever encountered, but it could still be used. Cut into large sections, it would make an incredibly durable shelter, a roof for a hut that could withstand the harshest winter storms. Another examines the teeth. He reaches out and runs a finger along the serrated edge of a tooth, longer than his forearm. These are not just trophies. Each one is a ready-made saw, a knife, a potential spearhead of terrifying size and sharpness. A single T-Rex tooth would be the most formidable tool in the clan's arsenal, a weapon unlike any other. And then there is the meat, 7 tons of it, It's an amount of protein and fat that could sustain the clan for an entire year, perhaps longer. It would mean no more dangerous hunts for the rest of the winter. It would mean safety, security, and a time for the clan to recover and rebuild. The hard, laborious work of butchering this mountain of flesh would be a monumental task, requiring every ounce of their remaining strength and skill. But it would be a task that guarantees their future. This single, impossible event has completely altered the course of this clan's history. They have lost much, but they have gained something extraordinary. They now possess materials and resources that will give them an advantage over every other Neanderthal group, and indeed every other creature in their world. The stories they will tell around the fire will be of a scale and wonder that no other humans could comprehend. They would become legends in their own time. The clan who fought and killed a walking god. Their children would grow up hearing the tale, a story that would shape their culture, their beliefs, and their identity for generations to come. But what about the bigger picture? What does this incredible, one-off victory actually mean for the survival of the Neanderthal species as a whole? The answer, paradoxically, is almost nothing. This clan's victory was a perfect storm of luck, strategy, and extraordinary courage. They were a veteran, disciplined group. They were in their own familiar territory, which they used to their advantage. The T-Rex was a single individual, not a pack, and even then, they suffered 50% casualties. What if the T-Rex had not been alone? What if it was a mated pair, or a family group with a... The Neanderthals would not have stood a chance. They would have been wiped out to the last individual. Let's scale it up. If a breeding population of tyrannosaurs was somehow introduced into the Pleistocene ecosystem, it would be an extinction-level event for the megafauna and for the humans who hunted them. The T-Rex is a hypercarnivore on a scale the Ice Age ecosystem is simply not equipped to handle. Its caloric needs would be immense. A single T-Rex would need to consume the equivalent of a large mammal every few days. A population of them would be a relentless, insatiable engine of destruction. The great herds of mammoths, bison, and horses that formed the foundation of the Pleistocene food web would be decimated. The Neanderthals, as specialized big game hunters, would find their primary food source vanishing before their eyes. They would be forced into direct, constant competition with a predator that is bigger, faster, and stronger than anything they have ever faced. Every hunt would become a potential three-way battle between the humans, their prey, and the ever-present Tyrant King. In this new, terror-filled world, the Neanderthals' survival strategies would fail. Their small, isolated clan structure would make them incredibly vulnerable. A single T-Rex attack could wipe out an entire genetic lineage. Their reliance on close-quarters hunting with thrusting spears would be suicidal. Their very way of life would become impossible. They would be outcompeted, hunted, and ultimately driven to extinction, not in a single glorious battle, but through a slow, grinding war of attrition and starvation. So, who survives the impossible confrontation? In a single, heroic battle, a clan of Neanderthals, the toughest humans who ever lived, could just maybe win the day. It would be their finest hour, a saga for the ages. But in the long war for survival against a species like the Neanderthals lose. Their courage and intelligence would not be enough to overcome the sheer biological superiority and ecological devastation wrought by the ultimate predator. The Stone Age would be brought to a swift and brutal end by the Tyrant King. It's a thrilling thought experiment, a clash of epic proportions, but in the end, it reminds us of a fundamental truth. Survival isn't just about being smart or tough. It's about being adapted to your time, your place, your world. The Neanderthals were masters of their world, but the world of the T-Rex was a different level of brutal. What do you think? Could they have done it? What strategy would you have used? Let me know your own theories for this impossible battle down in the comments. I'm really curious to see what you all come up with. And if you enjoyed this journey into a world that never was, please crush that like button and subscribe to the channel for more explorations of the biggest what-ifs in history and science. Thank you for watching. Stay curious, stay imaginative, and remember that even in the face of impossible odds, the human spirit is a powerful and courageous thing.